Hi, I'm Chef Keith Snow. Welcome to my kitchen. Now I'm going to show you one of my favorite all-time recipes, which is French green lentils with a mustard vinaigrette and a poached egg. Now, I had this dish, I've had it many times in the past, but recently this past January, I ate it over in Burgundy, France, in a city called Lyon, and a gentleman named Jean-Jacques Arganière prepared it for me, and he's the CEO of this company here, Le Canche. They make our great French ranges for us. Anyway, this dish is very classic, and what's kind of interesting about it, in the United States here in America, we would eat eggs and pastries and pancakes, things like that for breakfast a lot more often. That's our normal food, but over in France, breakfast generally coffee, very strong coffee, yogurt, fruit, beautiful pastries. They don't eat eggs for breakfast in France, so this dish would be served as sort of a course, maybe for lunch or even dinner. And when I was in Lyon with Jean-Jacques' family, he prepared it for lunch. And I guess there was something about being in France, their wonderful ingredients, and having a Frenchman who we call James Bond. I know James Bond is English, but James Bond is French. And we'll post some pictures of him in the future. But he made this dish perfect, and I'm going to execute it for you today. Let's talk a little bit about our ingredients. These are what they would call French green lentils. They're typically available anywhere. This is a legume. It's very healthy for you. It's loaded with protein, fiber, and good carbohydrates. These are somewhat underused, but they're excellent. So that's what they look like when they're raw. And here I have some cooked green lentils. And the only thing I did was put them in a pot with a little chicken broth, salt and pepper, and I slowly simmered them maybe 30 minutes until they started to soften up a bit. So this part of the recipe is done. Over here I have the classic French vinaigrette that Jean-Jacques made for me and is delicious. There's a recipe and a video for this on the website. Our first important step is to poach the eggs. So let's go over to the stove and I'll show you how to make perfect poached eggs. Come on. Poached eggs can be a little intimidating because they break, and it's a bit of a bummer when they break. So let's look right over here. I'll show you how to do it. It's very simple if you follow these little tips. So here, number one, this pot doesn't have very high sides. If you have a sauce pot with high sides, you kind of going in there, you're going to increase your risk of breaking the egg. So having sort of a low, flat saute pan or pot like this with water is critical. The next step, you want to season this water with some kosher salt. Mix that around. And here is probably the biggest tip I can tell you, is a little just plain old white vinegar. When you put vinegar in the water, you may have seen this before, if I can open it. Put some vinegar, maybe I would say about a tablespoon of white vinegar. You can use other vinegars too, but this is very inexpensive for this application. And you stir it around. What the vinegar does is helps grab the egg white and it helps to coagulate it. This is what we do in restaurants to make those perfect poached eggs. The other tip is make sure that your water, you want it a rolling boil, but you don't want to drop an egg in a very fast bubbling boil because that could break the yolk as well. So we stir in the vinegar and the salt so it's well combined. Now, here's a little glass dish. I would not recommend breaking this right into there because you also could break it. So we'll drop it right into this little cup here. Be very careful. All right, so now we're into the glass cup with a perfect egg. The other reason you do that is if the egg happened to be bad and it got into your water, you'd have to start all over. So now if you look at this water, that's boiling a little too fast. So I'm going to just back the heat down a little bit. And now take your spoon and create a little bit of a tornado in here. Get the water moving around and then drop in your egg very carefully. And what will happen is the force of the water will start to spin the egg around. You could give it a little extra help and that will keep it from sticking to the bottom. And you're going to see that this egg is already clumping together nicely. So again, give this a little stir and you can see, if my cameraman right there can get a good close-up, this egg is very compact. The other key is you don't want to overcook a poached egg. You want it to run a little bit on the plate or whatever you're going to put it on top of. So now I'm going to turn off the heat. There's enough residual heat in the water to cook the egg. And here's the other tip, is that you want poached eggs to be dry. You don't want to take a poached egg out of the water and then put it on your bread or however you're going to serve it, because the water will make the toast soggy. So you'll use a clean, tea towel like this to help dry it off, and I'll show you how to do that. And now this egg has probably been in here, I would say 1 minute. I'm going to wait just a little bit more, and now I'm going to pull it out. So using a slotted spoon, be very careful to pick up the egg, and then you're going to take it and you're going to lay it against this towel. Not completely on it, but against this towel, and this is going to help to drain it very completely. So now back on your spoon, and we're ready to cook with it. Let me show you how to assemble the rest of this dish. The first step is to take our lentils in a little bowl here, and we don't need a ton of them. This is only 1 serving for me. So we'll put that in there. And now we want to use a little bit of our French vinaigrette to dress these. So we'll just add a little, don't go overboard. Some salt, black pepper, and now we'll use this spoon and give these a little toss, being careful not to break them up. I mean, they're well cooked and they're very soft. Probably a little more salt. Okay, now here is this is just a plain old ramekin. I'm going to show you how to mold this in here, and hopefully it's going to stay together and make a pretty presentation for us. So we'll take these and drop them into our ramekin. And look at that, I have the perfect amount. Okay, we'll set this aside. Now I'm going to take the back of my spoon and just put a little bit of pressure. And you can use this technique for molding rice or mashed potatoes or a lot of different things. So now we have a little pretty plate here. We'll take it and kind of do one of these, and it should come right out. There it goes. So there's our little nest of lentils. Now we'll take our poached egg, and this is where you've got to be careful. We want it to sit right on top. Ah, perfect. And a little more of our French vinaigrette. Do a little drizzle like that, and then also I'd put a little around the plate. And Jean-Jacques would be very proud of me, I know. Some chives. And that is an awesome lunch there. I would serve that with a nice, probably a little Burgundy wine, which would be very indicative of the region. And I would also serve it with a light side salad, maybe some field greens, and you could toss the mustard vinaigrette with it. You could serve that on the side, and you'd have a perfect starter course. Now, if you don't mind, I'm going to take a little bite of this and see if it's as good as it looks. And that egg is very well cooked. That's awesome. I hope you try this today, and think of my friend Jean-Jacques when you do. Thanks a lot.
To see more tips, techniques, and videos, visit harvesteating.com. 4 seasons, 1 lifestyle.